what I wanted to talk about to begin with is a deep appreciation I had for the really meaningful comments that folks shared in last week on Thursday, our question and answer period. And they really stuck with me in many ways about the challenges that we all face in our practice, the mental and physical heart distractions that come up routinely in our practice. Um, and it's brought with me a deeper appreciation of how important resolve has been in my practice over the span of years, and how I don't often appreciate that blossoming of the practice along the way. After our session, I remembered how when I was first practicing and restlessness would come up, I would often find myself halfway up out of my seat or all the way up out of my seat or all the way out of the door before I would realize, oh, I was going to practice for half an hour and it's only been 10 minutes. And sometimes I would kindly lead myself back to sit down. Many times I would just go along with the restlessness and get into the busyness of the day. But at some point, I made the commitment, the resolution to stay with and to specifically set a time for every meditation period, even if it was a short time, but to stay with it gradually and very gradually over the span of many years. I've become much better at staying with this practice. My mind certainly still becomes restless, but I hold my seat a bit better. That's the fruit of my resolve. And it's not a little thing. It's so easy to dismiss that as no big deal. Doesn't everybody eventually do that? But it's a big thing. I don't jump up off the cushion anymore. Stop, pause, appreciate, notice that. As Susan would say, big gold star. And thank you to the Sangha for bringing this clearer in my awareness. I didn't jump off the cushion today. Woohoo! Big pat on the back. Another question was brought up about what to do about the itches that may come up as soon as you close your eyes, as soon as you sit down, or throughout the practice. And when that question was first raised, I thought, gee, I haven't felt bothered by my itches in quite some time. I just scratch mindfully or take a few more seconds to be with the itch before I scratch. And the universe is amazing. Of course, when I was meditating the next day, what came up? The itchies. Of course. At first, it wasn't quite an itch, just a little feeling like there was a little pressure or a loose eyelash just resting below my eye. And because the question had been raised in the Sangha and the comment, I thought, well, isn't that interesting? I noticed it with more interest and awareness. What am I going to do? And as we talked about on Thursday, I enlisted my curiosity. So I resolved kindly to stay interested and to play around with just sitting there, not even mindfully relieving myself of that minor annoyance. I just stayed with it, at least until an even more annoying awareness came up, an itch on the other side of my face that was significantly more unpleasant. But again, isn't that amazing? I could draw on my practice with gentle, amused resolve and commitment to stay with it, to try something different, lightly monitoring if it was too much of a distraction, monitoring if I was just white knuckling it, or if I was truly using this skillfully as a part of my practice. And for much of that meditation period, I just stayed with one annoying thing after another. And to quote the great and wise sage, Rosanna Dana, if it's not one thing, it's another. And if it's not one itch, it's another. But this staying with was a very rich part of my practice that day. And so again, thank you to the Sangha for helping me lean into this growing edge of my practice and deepen my commitment and resolve in the blossoming of staying with even what's annoying in the moment. One more awareness I wanted to share was, since going to the retreat at Vyasitos, I've been cultivating the resolve to be present for the moments of my life with caring, loving attention. And there was a beautiful sky at sunrise a few mornings ago that I almost missed. When I went out for my usual morning walk, I was initially disappointed, thinking I'd missed the best sunrise time. And immediately my inner critic quickly popped up, pointing out my laziness and sloth and torpor in not getting out of bed on time to catch the sunrise at its peak. I was about to simply cut my walk short and get started on my day's work. Jumping off the cushion, just another version. When I noticed my dissatisfaction, as well as my ever so helpful inner critic, as Susan would say, gold star for the noticing. And as Bill recommended, I stayed with the delight of noticing, giving myself credit for that noticing, for that 12-second breath. Let it sink in that this was a beneficial thing to do. I could be present with my dissatisfaction, feeling the sinking feeling in my heart and the constriction in my throat, and then letting go of that harshness and begin orienting towards more kindliness in that moment. Again, I became interested and curious about what would be a kind way to hold myself, whether or not I missed the best part of that morning sunrise. And it occurred to me that what would be most skillful would be my resolve to appreciate the beauty of the sky in the moment that it was present, to be present in that moment for my life and my experience. And it was a lovely sky. And to notice that rather than bemoaning what I might have missed. So I continued my walk around my little neighborhood, noticing the changes in the sky with open-hearted delight, whatever those changes brought, and with appreciation. Soft blues and blue grays of the clouds and the creaminess of the sun lighting the tops of the clouds. And within one lap around my block, I noticed the sky was transforming into rosy pinks, highlighting the clouds and the delicate flame colors of the sunrise. And by the time I made it around again, I noticed that the sky I thought I had missed was there. There was joy, humility, and gratitude for remembering to practice my resolve and commitment to be present for all of the moments of my life, and standing in stillness and steadiness for several 12-second breaths and allowing the full experience of that moment to sink in. I am just repeatedly amazed at how easily I forget the joy that is to be discovered in just this moment when I choose to be present for it rather than looking for something better, something more, or thinking I've missed out. How easily my negatively biased mind rehashes the story that through my lack of effort, lack of commitment, I've missed something critical, making this moment I'm in less, not enough, and adding to my suffering and discontent. When I was able to appreciate the moment of the morning for just what it was, and remember my resolve to be present in all the moments of my life, not just the ones that meet some unrealistic perfectionistic expectations. I felt so grateful to remember that I was able to relinquish holding on to the harshness and orient more towards kindness so that I could appreciate each moment and allow my heart to burst wide open. So when we look at resolution or determination, it isn't about the determination to make everything perfect, do things perfectly, to be the perfect meditator, but appreciating each time we remember to notice the moment and come back with kindliness and compassion for our often forgetful minds. Sylvia Boorstein, in her book, Pay Attention for Goodness Sakes, thinks about the Buddha's commitment and resolve sitting under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, resolving to not get up until he achieved enlightenment. And so she says, when she sits down, she says to herself, I'm not getting up until I'm enlightened, of a statement of unambivalent resolve. Now, at first, as it seemed to me, this might be a bit outrageous or overwhelming or egotistical, as she points out. However, she goes on to describe it in terms that I find more relatable. And this is to sit down with the resolve to cultivate and appreciate how enlightenment, in the form of, as Bill would say, some lightening up, some tenderizing, some kindliness, some clarity and wisdom enters into each meditation and into each day. To notice and appreciate the moments when that happens. Each walk I take in the morning to become oriented towards enlightenment, a bit more free from what is not beneficial, what takes me away from my well-being, my discontents, my dissatisfactions, my resentments, my minor frustrations, my itches, to ease up, as Bill would say, 10% more. And as Sylvia points out, it always works, not forever, but long enough for the mind to steady itself, for my resolution, my determination to be shored up just a little, feel more comfort and contentment in this moment. Perhaps I've even had a tiny glimpse of enlightenment, appreciating the benefit, the fruits of my resolve to stay with the practice as I savor a moment of seeing more clearly and with kind eyes, of easing the heart mind, of comforting this body breathing, of loving even the itches into the fold of caring attention, and remembering to remember that this moment is as wondrous and delightful as the most gorgeous sunrise.